The first human couple, Adam and Eve, through genetics and mythology. For thousands of years, humanity has searched for the answer to one timeless question. Who was the first human? How did humanity begin? Who was the first woman? Who was the first man? And if all humans descended from ancient ancestors, was there really a single couple at the beginning of our story? Ancient civilizations and sacred traditions offered many different answers. One of the most famous stories is the story of Adam and Eve. According to the ancient tradition, the story of humanity began in a world unlike our own. The mystery of the Garden of Eden. According to the story, God created the first man from the earth and gave him the name Adam. Adam was not simply another human being. He represented the beginning of mankind. But he was not meant to remain alone. A woman was created to accompany him. Her name was Eve. Together, Adam and Eve became the symbolic first man and woman, the beginning of the human family. They lived in a mysterious paradise known as the Garden of Eden. But Eden was more than a beautiful garden. It was a place of abundance, innocence, immortality, and mysteries that humanity had not yet discovered. At the center of the garden stood a mysterious tree. The tree of knowledge. There was only one command. Do not eat its fruit. But curiosity may be one of humanity's oldest characteristics. According to the story, a serpent approached Eve and convinced her that the forbidden fruit would open her eyes and allow her to understand the difference between good and evil. Eve ate the fruit. Then she gave some to Adam. And at that moment, everything changed. They became aware of themselves. They experienced shame. They experienced fear. And, according to the story, humanity became aware of something it had never known before. Death. What does genetics say? Thousands of years later, science began searching for humanity's origins in a completely different way. Scientists began studying DNA, the biological code hidden inside our cells. DNA can be thought of as a biological record passed from generation to generation. By comparing genetic variations among modern humans, scientists can reconstruct parts of our ancient ancestry. And this is where something fascinating happens. Modern genetics uses two terms that sound strangely familiar: Mitochondrial Eve and Y-chromosomal Adam. But there is an important misunderstanding. Mitochondrial Eve was not the first woman. She was not the only woman alive during her lifetime. She was simply the woman whose mitochondrial genetic lineage has survived continuously through maternal lines to people living today. The same principle applies to Y-chromosomal Adam. He was not the first man. He was the most recent common ancestor from whom the Y-chromosome line found in modern human males can be traced through an uninterrupted paternal lineage. And here is the fascinating part. Genetic Adam and genetic Eve did not necessarily live at the same time. They may have lived thousands of years apart. Therefore, modern genetics does not prove the biblical story of Adam and Eve. But it creates an intriguing parallel between ancient mythology and modern science. Both lead us toward the same enormous question. Where did humanity come from? Were the first humans really only two people? Modern genetics and anthropology do not describe human origins as a simple story beginning with one man and one woman. Human populations changed over enormous periods of time. They grew, migrated, separated, and mixed with other populations. Our species has a complex evolutionary history. So, scientifically speaking, humanity cannot be explained as descending from only one isolated couple. But mythology serves a different purpose. Ancient myths were not necessarily created to provide scientific explanations. They were stories designed to express humanity's deepest questions. Where did we come from? Why do we die? Why can we distinguish good from evil? Why do humans seek knowledge? The story of Adam and Eve brings these questions together through powerful symbols. The earth represents the beginning. The tree represents knowledge. The serpent represents temptation. The forbidden fruit represents choice. The exile from paradise represents humanity entering a world of suffering and limitation. And death represents the greatest mystery of all. A forgotten connection? Perhaps the most fascinating question is not whether Adam and Eve were literally the first humans. The deeper mystery is this. Why did so many ancient cultures describe the beginning of humanity through the image of a first man and a first woman? In ancient Mesopotamian traditions, there were stories about the creation of humanity. In Egyptian mythology, human origins were connected to divine forces. In Greek mythology, Prometheus was associated with the creation of humanity. Other ancient civilizations told stories in which the first humans emerged from earth, water, trees, or divine powers. Different cultures. Different gods. Different worlds. Yet the question remained remarkably similar. Who are we, and where did we come from? The final question. Perhaps Adam and Eve were never meant to be understood simply as two historical individuals. Perhaps they were symbols of humanity itself. Adam represented the beginning of mankind. Eve represented the continuation of life. The tree represented knowledge. The fruit represented choice. Paradise represented the perfection humanity lost. And the journey into the world represented the beginning of the human adventure. Today, science tells another part of that story. Instead of ancient manuscripts, scientists examine the hidden information inside our DNA. One story was preserved through mythology. The other is reconstructed through genetics. Yet both lead us back to the same extraordinary mystery. Where did humanity truly begin? Perhaps the answer exists not only in ancient myths. And perhaps it exists not only in science. Maybe the truth is hidden somewhere between the stories humanity has told for thousands of years and the genetic traces carried inside every one of us.